So we publish chapbooks by the two people who come first and second. And I'm going to introduce the person who came second first. Tracy Gaughan lives in Galway. Her poetry has appeared in Southward, Crannog and Ropes. She was a finalist in the Elan Boland Emerging Poet Award and was selected for the Irish Writers' Centre's mentorship programme in 2022. That same year, her poem The Wild Purge was nominated for a Forward Prize for Best Single Poem, a former poetry editor of the Bloomlib Literary Magazine. Tracy has never read her poems in public before in her life, but I know that you're all going to be very supportive of her today.
Thank you. I'm going to do my best. I just want to say thanks to Patrick and James and Kate, Munster Literature Centre, for recognising my work and giving me this wonderful opportunity, and to offer warm congratulations to Milica and Jenny, two outstanding writers with whom I'm delighted to share a space with this afternoon. So I'm introducing What It Costs, this collection of poems that's about the income and expenditure of life, and the transactionary nature of our lives as we negotiate the imperfect fit between the mind, the actual world, and how we communicate. And the poems traverse the depth of human experience, but through the prism of femaleness and femininity. So the speaker in the volume is an every woman, navigating a world of male references where male hegemony is corroborated in every sphere, and identity is forged through give and take. Womanhood is narrowly defined, so how do you fit in when you're anathema to society's ideals? How does womanhood manifest when you're in a misogynistic world where that socializes you to devalue yourself? And you know, you begin a poem with one poem with one line, and a theme emerges after a few years. And I think the seeds for this collection were sown a few years ago when I was writing a literature thesis on forgotten female artists, and the ideology that limited and erased their cultural history. So traditionally in art and literature, women were relegated to roles of model, muse and mistress, and their creative lives were excluded from the canon or annexed by the male writers they were associated with. So we know Rodin better than Claudel, we know James Joyce better than Kate O'Brien, or Beckett better than Teresa Deevy. But things are changing, and marginalised writers have a canon now, a legacy that facilitates coming into consciousness for a writer that there's a price to pay for living in a capitalist power structure, and women are damaged by male authority and regressive attitudes, and that's what the collection is about. But it's not all doom and gloom. There are some bright moments of metamorphosis where the speaker realises things can change, that a more partnership-centred world is possible. So I'm going to read a couple of poems for you now, and the first two speak to Milica's work on the theme of war. The Wild Purge was written in response to photographs I came across of the liberation of Paris in 1944, and the pictures were of women in postures of degradation. They were having their heads shaved in the public square, the scalps thrown on the ground like seaweed on the beach, and crowds laughing at them. And shaving heads of women and hair taking is a weapon of war in most countries, not least in Ireland during our own revolutionary period. But it's an act of public humiliation, of revenge and social control, because the women in these pictures are being accused of horizontal collaboration, or allegedly sleeping with the enemy, in this case German soldiers, most likely in exchange for food. And they were branded as collaborators and sexual transgressors by men assuaging their own sense of impotence in the face of Nazi oppression. But something about their baldness, they just had the look of the liberated. It's called The Wild Purge. They tear at us like carrion, stripping us to our underwear. It helps to imagine our heads are covered with tight petal caps, and we are wearing swimsuits, our soft silhouettes no disgrace. that about us only seagulls are screaming, and on the sand lie small clumps of seaweed as though it were ordinary for kelp to shore in Charth as our bush are leaving. We shed tears big as pears, waiting in line like sheep to be sheared as if hair were the only thing holding a woman together. But the sandy beach is a broad square, and an intimate suffering is falling on the pavement like dozens of shrouds. We are misshapen on the outside, use our minds to hide the dire offence of thinking love a virtue, of having had men billeted upon us. What strange motive to kiss a soldier's mouth for a tin of sardines. Our scalps are the cold glee of a crowd that brands us with iron. Stones, kicks and spits in what could be Salem or revolution as our tumbril trundles across the square in ugly carnival, the woolly proof of our humanity just lying there. We are each other's abomination, who knows what tide of conscience will sweep that sargassum out. To be a woman is a performance, and we are exiting the stage. Hail and farewell, our baldness is saying, freer than we were or ever will be. And the next poem, Passchendaele, I wrote on the centenary of the armistice in 2018. There was a lot going on politically and culturally here in Ireland. There were a lot of femicide and rape cases before the courts, and female-related medical malpractice suits. I think the cervical smear issue is just coming to light. At the same time, I was reading a lot about ecofeminism, the idea that the domination of women and the degradation of the environment are consequences of patriarchy and capitalism. And then I was watching the commemorative ceremonies of mostly male heads of state laying wreaths and denouncing war and rhapsodizing about peace, while to the left and right the long wars of Syria, Yemen, Congo are continuing, violence against women continuing, and ecologically the world is dying. So in the poem, Using the Land as Woman, which is a deeply rooted metaphor, I revisit a historical war site or historical moment from a feminine perspective and thinking along the model of subjugation and control and the way society treats women. Passchendaele. This much I know. First there was a village, then there was no village. There was a woman, now there is none. I close my eyes with a finale of long shadows wrought by the sinking sun. I'm haunted by men. Like a flotilla of charred masts, a silent vista of defoliated trees rises up from the fetid mire. Everywhere corpses, in the leas, in the copse of my shell-holed mind, wet-bodied men drown in flooded craters. From above, the great hand of Providence seeds bodies between the folds of my furrowed womb. They fester there, gestate. I deliver their putrid carcasses each spring, stillborns resurfacing from the innards of the earth. The midwifery of nature, an aid memoir to shame. My body is a bitter earth, a garden of remembered dead, pockmarked with cavities, violently shelled out by almighty men who poured their fury over me, who were all Hun to me. I lie on my back looking up at the sky. It hasn't changed in 100 years. It's the same late summer sky my skin was scarred beneath by rancor, shrapnel, a smile slashed across the churned up ground of my face. Tears that fell from clouds above the village or sprung from the deep trenches of my veins submerged men and munition in gluttonous mud. They didn't withdraw. They burrowed in like leeches, suffocating right there, cradled in the low ground of my arms, subdued by the throbbing army. By my ears the bullets whistled. The shouting shells and smoke of war hid the glow of my blossoming roses, my thighs gashed and riven by heaving gun carriages. I lay an open-jawed cadaver, entangled in the silent barbs of a death wire, my soft breasts ravaged by contorted metal, the landscape of my room ransacked and strewn with spent missiles, detritus of a brutal incursion. I just closed my eyes and let the sodden earth devour me. Those omnipotent figures loom large above my grave, but don't weep for me. A confessional of remembrance absolves them of sin, committers free to commit again. War, someone said, does not decide who's right, but who's left. This much I know. First there was a village, then there was no village. There was a woman, now there is none. I close my eyes with a finale of long shadows wrought by the sinking sun. I'm haunted by men. A couple of years ago I had the pleasure of doing a course with the brilliant Dublin writer Eva Kenny, and we were reading women writers pre and post Irish independence era, looking at ways their work might have impacted contemporary ideas of Irish womanhood. And I was really interested in the story of Edith Somerville from Cork and Violet Martin, aka Martin Ross from Galway. They were two writers in one, an Anglo-Irish writing duo who co-authored a series of novels, including the popular Irish RM series. And they were single, child-free professional women who managed to avoid being contextualised in relation to the men they knew, which was no mean feat. But their relationship spoke again to the themes of partnership and egalitarianism and breaking apart the archetypal family structure and giving rise to new ways of existing beyond the binaries of gender and beyond the boundaries of the self. Because when Ross died in 1915, Somerville stayed in supernatural contact with her cousin, so even in death the bond wasn't broken. And that's what the poem's about, as well as sisterhood and women supporting each other and doing things beyond the conventional. The title is taken from their 1894 novel, The Real Charlotte. Two great rocks, and between them a hawthorn. Neither of us could remember whose hand had written the line. We were regarded as one, owned of one another, reconstellating Castor and Pollux in tandem, pulling the sun across the sky. Dizygotic, sororal, your heart beat in my chest. When you closed your eyes, I slept and dreamed your dreams. We were duplicates in the mirror. Your thoughts in my mind, my words on your lips, your pen in my hand. How should I measure the weight of your loss? In armfuls, by the pound, the distance by rail, our messages travelled across the borrowed country, like poetry in motion from Ross to Cork. Our love in utero. We huddled in rugs at the attic table, dictating words that swelled across the page like brush strokes of language, catching silver light on the lake, or softly soughing sycamores by water, lapping about a boat's keel. Your light, my shadow, your matter, my metrical secateurs to your inveterate roses. But now the world is so hard to pronounce. I throw an arm across our bed where it lies, an aborted bridge across a lake, never to escape the boundary of itself. I think that I was half lost, a woman half entire, when I put my a lonely fetch peeling a dark sonata through the hollow windows of an empty house, when I put my fingers to the planchette, felt your spirit move across the page. You were pointing out the words. Two great rocks leaned toward each other, and between them a hawthorn bush had pressed itself up to the light. And like a nerve that touches every organ, I felt again the holy well of our two great minds, and between us, the pen. And I'll finish with this one. It's Ode to the Window. I love windows. It's generally where you find me standing staring out a window, and I think it's hereditary. My father does the same thing. But they're illuminating in every sense of the word. They're liminal places, public and private, and you're in looking out, you're out looking in. There's a lot going on with windows. And women at windows is an enduring theme in art and literature. And from a traditional male perspective, it's about confinement and passivity, but really it's about reflectivity, and in every sense of that word. So a woman at a window is actively writing her own story, creating herself. Ode to the Window. Darling eye door, ingress of light, I stand before you, a trope. A woman at a window, waiting for a piece of infinity to come. This is how men see me, an object ossified in the painting, an imprisoned Elaine of Astolat, condemned to a panorama of a world always out of reach. But the world I see outside has nothing that I want. Window, sweet passage of air allower, inclement weather excluder. You are the only vista I seek. In you is my reflection, clear as a rock pool, not looking outside for insight, only in. prized eyes of the soul. We don't meet often, but this feels like old ground. A face of features, unconscious and visible, staring at the sea in the window and falling in love with herself. Sash, casement, oriel, bog keeper outer, bay, rose, which the more I look, I see fragments of a person begin to appear. The woman of the house, didn't she die? Wave reflector, solid air of sparrows, a threshold between was and will be, you reveal what is me to me. Looking glass echo, egress of reason, place a woman can be with herself, think about things. Mirror ghost, angel receiver, to you only am I accountable. Did I make the right choices? Can I ever go back? Thanks very much for having me.
Just as a lot of English people can never get the diphthongs of Irish right when they try to pronounce it, I know I'm not going to get it exactly right. Milica's name. Milica Mijatović is a Serb poet and translator, born in Bosnia and Herzegovina. She relocated to the United States, where she earned a BA in creative writing and English literature from Capital University. She received her MFA in creative writing from Boston University and is a recipient of a Robert Pinsky Global Fellowship in Poetry. Her poems are nominated for the Pushcart Prize, and she serves as assistant poetry editor for Consequence. This chapbook, this manuscript, or versions of it, have been shortlisted for a number of prizes in chapbook competitions in America without winning. And all I can say is I'm glad I didn't win, because the Americans' losses are a gain. The Fool for Poetry chapbook competition, like our Gregory O'Donoghue competition, is judged anonymously. I have the judging process structured in a particular way, and I'll explain how it is and why it is. We don't have the budget to pay a jury to read every single manuscript in this occasion. Now, we make sure we have enough money to pay the judge who judges the O'Donoghue competition to read every single entry. But what happens with the chapbook competition is I receive all the entries myself. They're anonymous, I don't know who's written them, and I pick the top 10 or 12 that, for me, have a consistent, strong voice throughout the manuscript. I then pass it on to 2 other judges, and those judges score the manuscripts by order of preference. They don't consult with one another. Sometimes they don't even know each other. And that's structured in such a way as to avoid any kind of cronyism entry into the process. I've chaired a lot of juries. Now, in 20 years, we once offered the largest prize in the world for a collection of short stories, and I began as somebody who'd never assembled juries and had no experience of how juries worked, and there were things that kind of shocked me over the years. Like I saw a year where one strong personality browbeat 4 others into who the winners should be. I saw a jury split down the middle and choose a winner despite the other half of the jury. All these kind of things. By structuring the judging of the chapbook competition this way, and we also do it for the Farmgate Award. I believe that's the way of eliminating all these kind of things that can happen. So that's how you won, guys. And I'm inviting Milica up here now to read from our winning chapbook.
Thank you so much, Patrick, for the lovely introduction and for believing in my work, and for giving me this opportunity. And thank you everyone who's here, and to the whole Munster Literature Centre the same. Thank you so much. The very first poem that I'll read is the first poem of the chapbook. And it was written last, though, and it was, I think, the key for me to bring kind of the chapbook together. And I think that's because it was probably the most difficult poem that I've written. So here it is. Ex-Yugoslav War, 1991 to 1995. Sometimes I wish I was there during the war. I'd be me, but I wouldn't be my parents' daughter. I'd be their friend, part of their in-crowd, laughing when they laugh, ducking for cover when they duck. Sometimes I wish it so badly I forget I'm in America. Find myself seeing body parts on the ground, watch as Costa gathers them in his hands. I realize he's tending to fallen apples, and I stifle my scream. Later, when he offers me the fruit, I don't eat it. In my dreams, I'm more vividly dodging death by war. It's not that I want to die. It's guilt for not being there, guilt for writing of it, guilt for fleeing. I keep scouring history books, poems, cemeteries, photos, voices, villages, wrinkles, graffitied walls, bridges. I keep looking for whom I'm to be ducking from. In my imagination, I carry no weapons. I see no enemies. Who is bombing us? Who are we fighting? How many of us have died wondering? I wish I could have been there to lift a wounded soldier's head, asked, "Šta radimo mi ovdje?" and listened. Maybe he'd know. The problem with three-sided wars is the assumption that two sides must be wrong. The problem with war is the need for one side to win. Sometimes I wish I was there when they tallied the dead and did or did not fumble to declare a victor. Who is it that won? The silence that follows creates a vacuum for anyone to howl into. I guess the loudest wins. In any case, this war follows me like a street dog, hungry and alone, leaves me wondering where the bones and landmines are buried. This second poem is about my maternal grandfather. He died when my mama was 5 or 6 years old, so she barely knew him, and I definitely didn't know him. But I've always been connected to him. So this is for him. Residue. In a dream, Deda Savo tells me he misses me, but we've never met, not in this life, not even almost. In the morning, I run to his tombstone, candles in hand, climb uneven ground, weave through the dead people, find him sitting there with family, weeds all around. Plopping beside him, I tell him I've missed him too. Catch him up on my life, although he knows everything already. Deda looks at me as he always looks at me, except he has never looked at me, but we look nonetheless. I tell him about Grandma, how she's still living, how she's still alone. He knows that too, because he's still dead, still alone. I tell him people keep dying, and there's almost no one left in the cell. The earth keeps eating his house, a little piece there, one here, and I'm scared of the day it's just gone. I light the candles, and we sit in silence as they burn. After a few minutes, I thank him for listening, tell him I'm so happy he didn't forget me, promise I'll be back as soon as I can. I half skip down the hill, across the field, through the village, to my car. Pavle waves to me from his vinograd as I drive away, windows down, fingers sticky from the wax. This next poem is the story of Mama giving birth to me. The title is Oj golube, moj golube, which I took from a Serbian folk song with the same name. It's really beautiful. If you're interested, look it up. The word golub in Serbian means both dove and pigeon, and in this case I'm talking about pigeons. Oj golube, moj golube. I was born to pigeons cooing. Was the war over then? Not sure. Officially, maybe yes, but Mama gave birth in a windowless hospital. And by windowless, I mean the windows had been shattered by bullets or shrapnel, so the draft almost killed all of us. The pregnancy ward was one room. Beds like soldiers on the front line, babies like bullets aimed at the next 100 years. I asked Mama if she thought she was going to die. She said the pigeons were everywhere and everything smelled bad. I asked if anyone died. She said not everyone noticed this big pigeon in the corner, gray and blue, mora da Mijatović, poised and happy, warm. Sometimes I think I hear cooing, a sort of calling home. It's as if the pigeons remember Mama holding me till a nurse took me because Mama was coughing, sick. Both of us lived. It had to have been the pigeons. They were our peace treaties, our ceasefires. One time a man told me, every pigeon you see is a prayer. Svaki golub je molitva. And it made me wonder if Mama ever saw any pigeons at all. Okay. This next poem is the title poem. War food. Except for this, there are no more war stories left to tell. I've tasted thunder like you wouldn't believe. Forests have grown in my palms, and men have carved men into trees. See all these stains on my skin? I'm rotting. An apple you shouldn't pick. I've scavenged for friends' body parts in fields we used to race in, trying to outrun eagles above us. How could we have known? Scattered puzzle pieces and broken trinkets. The last lesson as grasshoppers feed. This next poem came from a conversation I happened to overhear in a coffee shop in Boston, Massachusetts, in America. A group of people were talking about the unsanctioned NATO bombing of Serbia in 1999. And this woman was very passionately defending this bombing, and there was one phrase that she said that I think is going to be burned in my mind for the rest of my life. In her defense of this aggression, her reasoning was that Serbia is a land of brutes. And in America, there's, land of the free and land of the brave. And so here I was listening to this land of brutes. So I wrote this poem, trying to figure out how I feel about that. To the American woman who praises NATO for bombing Serbia, land of brutes. I am a brute. Yes, a brute. I can eat you whenever I want, won't think twice about it. You are shocked, but you made me this way. This is who you need me to be. Go home and tell everyone there I'm 120 pounds of savagery. And when they ask where you found me, say I was buried under rubble, charred black, faceless, 7 months pregnant. Or say you found me on the toilet, hit by shrapnel, bled on my parents, a child only 3 years old. Or say you collected my dismembered body, picked up my arms, legs, hands, and head, couldn't put it back together like it used to be. And when they ask if they won, you shake their hands proudly, for they and you have subdued the brute, but they and you have made me hungry. Really light stuff. Okay, this next poem is a dream poem. I have several in this chapbook. I dreamt a lot about the war and different conflicts, and it's a bit weird, so I write about it. And one thing I'll say is the way that I titled my dream poems is from Mijatović. She's was a prolific Serbian poet, and any object that he's dreaming about, let's say he's dreaming about a chair, he'll title it Chair, Dream. So that's how I title all of my dream poems as well. And here's this one. War, Dream. If you're quiet enough, you can almost hear nothing. The kind of nothing that scares you into thinking you've gone deaf, except you haven't because your sister is screaming, except she isn't even born yet, and neither are you, but you're definitely here. Your tears are bodies falling only 2 clicks away. You're here, and you're running toward what looks like a finish line, except here, finishes don't exist. And even though you know whom you're running from, you turn around to look one last time at your burning home. Except it isn't your home. It isn't even your war, but you are here. And you grip your chest because something in there aches, but your sister is screaming somewhere in the distance, so you have no time to grieve. Not while the alarms are sounding, not while the troops are marching, not while your people are watching, except no one is here but you. This next poem is about friendship. And I think it's about friendship in a post-war place, perhaps, and how difficult that is. And the poem mentions the river Sava, and during the war, mines were placed in the river. And there's actually still a fear to this day that there are mines that are left over. And so here's this one. Echoes in the Sava. Friendship is killing each other and reuniting in the afterlife. Hate here is a different kind of hate. We pretend to know anything about it, graffiti our alliances on unimportant buildings and abandoned war tanks. Do you know how many mines are in the Sava? Sometimes we go swimming for them. They were put there for somebody. Best we find them, die as martyrs of a war that'll never end. As friends harvested in the same field, under the same dry sun. Friendship is truest here, in the look we give each other before plunging into the water, head first, hunting for the thing that divided our fathers. Friendship is emerging, lungs in tow, finding each other alive one more time, laughing, embracing, then diving in again. I'll read 2 more poems, it's all right. This next one is also about friendship, sort of the same theme, so I'll read it now. Pedestrian bridge over the train tracks in Brčko, BiH. I don't know when the bridge was built, or when the train stopped running, or which side of the tracks was ours and which theirs, or why they painted the bridge turquoise, or why war is obsessed with lines, or who graffitied one of the bridge railings with Teška vremena prijatelju, or why some cement steps are missing, or how. But I know the tracks are a line, the war a blur, the bridge a truth. I know the way home is quickest across the tracks. I know as kids we never went that way alone. But one day the bridge became our meeting place, our common ground, and we'd sit, you with your name and me with mine. I'd say, this place makes me forget to be someone. And you'd look at me bewildered. All this place does is make me be someone. We were both stuck adhering to lines drawn on our knuckles, clenching our fists at the imaginary rumbling of some train coming to prove us wrong. The last poem that I'll read is actually the last poem in the book. Hopefully we'll end it on a little bit of a lighter note. There are 3 poems in this book that appear in both Serbian and in English. This is one of them. I'm going to read the Serbian version first. Usually I get a question of, which one did I write first? Did I translate it? The way that I wrote all 3 of these poems, I wrote it in both languages at the same time. So this one I started in the Serbian and I wrote a few lines. I translated those lines in English. Then I continued the poem in English, and then I translated back into Serbian, and it's like weaving. I find it frees up a lot in both languages. So I'll read the Serbian version first. I tokom rata, pogotovo tokom rata, smijali smo se. Naslijedili smo smijeh od roditelja koji su morali da kopaju na umornim koljenima da ga nađu. Koji su morali čekati da dođe struja ne bi li pročitali o njemu na svojim kožama, pa ga zapamtili prije nego što se svjetla opet ugase. Smijeh, oni nam kažu, je proljeće, je boja plave ptice, je posljednji gutljaj rakije, je tišina između zvuka bombe i eksplozije, je rupa u zidu kroz koju ti drug plazi jezik, je selo tačno prije nego što starica popije čaj. Uzmite smijeh, kažu nam, i pjevajte mu da zaspi, jer lako pobjegne, ali se ne boji mraka. Zato ga koristite kao pokrivač čak i tokom toplih noći. Prekrijte uši s njim kad se oglasi alarm i sačekajte da odjekne kroz zidove i generacije. Kad ga čujete, sakrijte ga iza uha dok ne dođe vaš red da ga proslijedite. And during the war, especially during the war, we laughed. We inherited laughter from our parents who had to dig for it on their tired knees, had to wait for the electricity to switch on so they could read about it on their skins, memorize it before the lights flickered off again. Laughter, they tell us, is spring, is the color blue jay, is the last sip of a rakia shot, is the silence between the bomb sound and the bomb explosion, is the hole in the wall your friend sticks his tongue through as a joke, is the village right before the old woman sips her tea. Take laughter, they say, and sing it to sleep because it runs away easily, but it's not afraid of the dark, so use it as a blanket even on warm nights. Cover your ears with it when the alarms sound and wait for it to echo through walls and generations. When you trip over it, hide it behind your ear until it's your turn to pass it down. Thank you so much.